on this episode of Spirit Talk.
My name is Micah, and I'm going to be your nurse tonight. And my mom said, okay. And he goes, how you doing? And my mom had not heard what the doctor said to me. She said, I'm not doing too well, Micah. I don't think I'm going to live beyond tonight. She said, I think I'm going to die tonight. And he said, well, no, you're not. No one dies on my watch.
Hi, I'm Chris Fleming, the creator of Spirit Talk. You're listening to the podcast where I'll be bringing you the greatest thinkers, researchers, and contributors from around the world to discuss what we know in the field of the paranormal, life after death, and the pursuit of higher consciousness. Welcome back, everybody. This is Chris Fleming with Spirit Talk, and if you're a first-time listener, thank you for tuning in. Spirit Talk is available all over iTunes, Planet Paranormal. It's on Audible. On Amazon, you can talk to your Echo and say, hey, play Spirit Talk. And you can also find it on Google Podcasts. So make sure you tell everybody. But what I want to tell you about is the guest we have for this episode, Chip Coffey. Many of you know Chip from the TV series Paranormal State, Psychic Kids, and of course, Kindred Spirits, which he's been on for the past few seasons. That is airing on Discovery Plus network. Now, for those of you that don't know, Chip is a clairvoyant. He's a clairaudient and a clairsentient psychic. But he's also a fully conscious medium. Now, before COVID, he's been traveling around at events, doing gallery readings as well as one-on-one psychic readings. And he takes that ability, and he's been using it on TV to investigate paranormal cases as well as help people with their own psychic abilities. He published a book called Growing Up Psychic that tells his story, but he's also got a website, chipcoffey.com. That's Chip, COFFEY.com. You can check that out to see what he's up to, as well as book any private readings and see where his events and appearances are going to be this year. Now, I think I first met Chip back in maybe 2006, 2007, right around that time. He was at a UNIFCON, which was in Penn State. And then, of course, he had done Paranormal State. And I met him at many events after that. And we've kept in touch over the years to see how each other's doing. So, well, let's get him on the phone and have a Spirit Talk conversation with Chip Coffey. Chip, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We finally hook up to get on this podcast.
I know. What's up with us taking so long? I don't know about We're both busy individuals.
And we're getting a little old.
Well, there's that.
So, I mean, you've been going through some crazy stuff, obviously, with the COVID. You know, you got to film Kindred Spirits because I watched the episode, The Zombie Boy, which I really liked.
It was intense.
Yes, it was. And I really love how the format of the show is going. But you had some changes this season due to COVID. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, some big changes, actually. I came home from a trip a week before Christmas in 2019 that I went to the West Coast to film an episode of Drunk History in Los Angeles. And then, yeah, that was fun. To a really creepy haunted house somewhere outside of LA. And I'm like, I don't even like being here because it had this weird history of things like Anton LaVey and all that stuff in the house. Like, this place is effed up.
Yeah.
So I did that, then flew to do some things for the network in Las Vegas, and then flew home. Greta and I, my travel assistant, my BFF, flew home on December 17th. And we planned on just kind of laying low through the holidays and into the new year because there was a lot of travel planned in the spring. So we were just going to kind of take it easy at home and not do much and then start up again in the spring. Hashtag COVID.
Yeah.
So legitimately, I've been home pretty much since the 17th of December, 2019. And because of some underlying medical conditions, I can't travel. You know, with Kindred, I thought, am I going to keep my job? Am I going to lose my job? Because they're going to go out on the road safely.
Right.
But me personally, my doctor said, you absolutely cannot travel. period. No questions asked. You've got to stay pretty much isolated because I have some underlying medical conditions and I'm old. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So we discussed it with the folks at the network. We discussed it with the folks at the production company, and we decided they would build me an in-home studio or we would put together an in-home studio, not actually do a build out. But I put together a studio and filmed 10 episodes of the new season from home. It was very different.
When I watched the zombie episode, and you and I had talked last week, and in watching the episode, I mean, it's a well done show, well polished, and and Adam, and Amy work really good together. And I'm waiting. Yeah, you do. And then I'm waiting for that moment when you come on, and then I see it. I remember I was like doing a few things, and then, there he is. And I sit down and I'm watching you. So you're like at a desk, and you're doing, what would you call this type of mediumship that you're doing? I mean, I know the names, but I want to have you share with the listeners.
I would just call it kind of like doing it remotely or remote. It's a little different than remote viewing, because remote viewing really, it falls into the psychic thing, but it's different insofar as it's almost remote investigating. And that's really what I would call it, because I'm there trying to tap into not only what I'm seeing remotely, but what I'm experiencing from an intuitive level.
Right.
And that was challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it with my private clients, but to actually be tasked with having to tap into the energy of a space and what's going on in that exact space. I mean, I've done it a few times in the past for private clients, but number one, I wanted to keep my job. I wanted to be part of the Kindred Spirits experience and still work with Amy and Adam. So I realized I was really going to have to push hard to try to tap into those locations where they're at. And interestingly enough, once we sort of dived into it, it worked well.
Oh, it did. And it was actually great to see that, too, because I was watching it, and I mean, you were shocking them. And obviously what they were getting on EVP and the spirits that they were communicating with at the location. And then you're doing this non-locality from your home, from your desk, which to me, it was like watching, some of the remote viewers, the Stargate in the military that they used to do. But obviously yours is different. You're communicating with the spirit rather than just kind of spying and seeing what the targets are and trying to describe the targets. But how did you feel? Did you have anything like connect with you communication wise with another spirit, started like communicating back and forth with you when you were doing this? Like,
oh yeah.
Very cool.
I was picking up a lot of stuff. We did 10 episodes and each one was kind of uniquely different.
Mm-hmm.
What I found kind of interesting was after the fact, I would get messages from the folks on set who would say like, how the heck are you doing that? And one comment was made like, we probably should just keep him at home because actually he's picking up a lot more or doing even better than he did when he was here on location. And I'm like, I don't know that I like the but, okay. And the reason that I think that happened was I was really anxious to keep my job and I pumped up the volume.
Right.
And with my spirit partners and everybody else, I'm like, look, we're going to be out of a job here, kids, if we don't deliver the goods.
It's amazing what in those situations what your consciousness can do. Plus, in one way, there's no distraction because you don't have the environment there. You're just sending your thoughts there.
100%. But, the thought of having to do this, when we're put in a position like that, you've done TV, and you've got an extensive TV resume.
Yeah.
Still is, that you got to deliver the goods. You got to do the hoops.
Right.
Or else you're not going to, you're not going to be employed. I realized that's what I had to do. And so I'm like, I got to pull out all the stops and figure out exactly how I'm going to do this. And as not understanding how do we do this in the first place, all you can do is say, I'm going to try to open myself up and tap into whatever I can. And I used Amy and Adam's energy because I know them so well and, tried to tap into their energy somehow to kind of help me with that experience.
Right.
but lots of times I was several hundred or over 1,000 miles away from where they were. So
that's so, yeah, I want to watch some of the other episodes too that have come out because I enjoyed it. And I love the production on it with some of the angles and the cameras and the drones that they're using. It's really good.
It's
the darkness.
Let me just, and I hope Andy will listen to this. We have a lean and mean crew on that show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have 15 production assistants that stand around and scratch their fannies, while we're filming or anything like that. There's like 8 people on our entire crew.
Right.
And so, Andy Lynch is our director of photography, and Andy is freaking brilliant. He knows what he's doing. I agree with you. The drone work that I see done on the show is great for flying over the locations and getting a
incredible
feel for what's going on. It's a very cinematic process.
Oh, it's fantastic.
This season a little differently. If you notice, if you watch it, people who've watched other seasons, we tried kind of before. I think they tried not to really very often include seeing any of the crew in the shots.
Mm-hmm.
To sort of not include them. I don't know any other way.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. Like the third wall, it's like not breaking that third wall.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this year, they just they don't care.
Right.
And I love that fact because it adds the sense of, I think, almost more of an authentic feel to it. And the fact that you feel like almost you're there.
Yeah.
If you see that there's a camera guy or an audio person or somebody else in the room, you kind of feel a sense of more being there with the people that are on the screen.
Right. Right. I know like some shows don't, when they're documenting the investigation, they don't want you to break the third wall, and then some do. I've always been the type person, I have to break the third wall.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You understand. I mean, it's if a spirit's coming forward and it's affect somebody in the crew, we need to know that, and we need to, pursue that. Uh-huh. So it's great to see. And it's funny because I'm watching, I had the pleasure of meeting Amy years ago and Adam, and I'm watching their dynamics as they work, and I'm laughing at some of the facial expressions.
Oh, yeah.
that Adam has. It's like, he's like, it's just...
I can't see them when they would turn me around and show me the location. And then when I the shows, and every now and then I'm able to preview some of the episodes, it's so funny to watch them react to some of the stuff that I'm saying. Like,
Yep.
It's crazy.
I see them when they're holding the phone and they're talking to you, and they look at each other like they don't want to say anything yet because they don't want to interrupt you what you're saying, and that's so cool to see. I'm like, oh yeah, because I do the same thing, so it's like great to see you doing it and watching that. I think it works out really well. The fact that this particular season you're not there and you're showing your abilities. And Chip, my cat is to the left of me, just doing circles and circles and circles and circles. And it's kind of interrupting me, but I think it's hilarious. Do you have pets, right?
I have a dog.
You do? What's the name of the dog?
Abigail.
Aw. How old?
Well, you want to hear my Abigail story?
Yes, please.
So, I had 4 dogs at one point in time, and sadly, all 4 of my original pack have passed away now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I had 1 dog left. I had Gracie left, and Gracie sadly passed away on January 1st of this year. So it's really new and fresh. But rewind back to 2019 on Halloween.
Okay.
And all my dogs had passed except for Gracie at that point in time. And it's Halloween, and it's cold in Atlanta that night. It's going to be 33 degrees, which is cold for Atlanta. In the neighborhood that I live in, they've spotted coyotes in our neighborhood, and large dogs. And sometimes people race up and down. Even though I live in a subdivision, they race up and down the streets. So I go to the door, and there's this Hispanic lady and her cute little boy in a costume and a dog. And I said, let me just tell you, I said, hands down, that one there wins best costume because that looked just like a dog. I was being a smart aleck.
Right.
I said, your dog is so cute. She goes, that's not my dog. He's just been following us around. And I thought, oh, crap. I said, not your dog. And the dog looked kind of grungy. And I could see then when I took a closer look that her backbone was sticking out like she was hungry. And I thought, I don't want another dog. I don't want to lose another dog. I'm thinking, let Grace, who was older, let her live her life out and then take a break from having a dog for a while, let my heart heal. And when I'm ready,
Right.
get another. Nope. God said, hold my communion wine. Like, hold my beer, hold my communion wine. I got a different plan. So I called her. She came inside. Gracie was very territorial and didn't like other people or other animals coming in her house. She accepted her right away.
Wow.
Abigail came up that night and got in bed with me. We tried to find her owner. We couldn't find her owner anywhere. We finally took her immediately we took her to see if she had a chip, and they couldn't find a chip in her or anything like that. And she wasn't chipped. And so we took her and had her groomed and had her a bath and a grooming and had all of her shots and a wellness check and everything done on her. And she's been here ever since. And she's a Cocker Spaniel, a purebred Cocker Spaniel, and she's an amazing dog. And Kenny, my cousin who lives with me, and she's the perfect dog for us. So I have a strong faith and a strong belief, and I believe that things happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to put this just out there. I think God sent that dog at the exact right time.
Right.
She came into our lives at exactly the moment that she should. I'm going to get emotional about this, but
Bless you.
we didn't know what we needed, but some higher God, Chris, damn it.
I know, man. I understand.
Some higher power knew we needed Abigail in our lives.
Bless you. Absolutely.
And here. And that's the Abigail story. And we lost Gracie, and now Abby's the only dog. And Kenny and I have realized we don't really want to get another dog. Neither one of us really wants to get another dog. But if we get another dog, we're going to get another dog as a companion for Abby.
Right.
Because she needs a buddy. And so it's funny, right before I got on Skype with you, I was looking and saw a dog on Pet Finder and showed it to Kenny, and it's a part lab, part Weimaraner. And I'm like, I don't know. We're kind of slowly beginning the process of examining, bringing another family member into our pack.
Such a wonderful story, and bless you, because I know you've always had a heart for animals the time that I've known you. And anybody listening, like last month's podcast, it's very difficult when you lose a pet.
Horrible.
And you go through that stage where I'm not going to get another one because I don't want to go through that pain again, and nothing can replace them. But like my experience with Squirt many years ago, and this cat that's beside me right now, obviously came into the room and created this tangent for us to go off on, is that this cat right here is the reincarnation of Squirt, because Squirt had said to me during a channeling session, you can love us through another. Like, what do you mean? Get another cat and pretend it's you? I'm not going to do that. He goes, no, you understand. One day you will. You can love us through another, and their soul's eternal, so they can come back. And then what happens sometimes is when they go to the other side, the universe says, hey, we need to fill that void. We need to continue the love, the creativity that flows through us. And they wanted to make sure you had that, especially being home for 12 months, not being able to interact with other people. There's a loneliness that goes along. And, we're spiritual beings that are here to create love, to express and be creative.
Absolutely.
And that's such a great story, Chip. Thank you for sharing that. It brought tears to my eyes, too, because I've been through that moment.
It's the worst pain.
Yep.
Grief and loss. That's, when you think about it, that's what we do. We try to bring some level of comfort and healing to those people who are undergoing grief and loss. And a lot of what we do is kind of like social work to the living and the dead.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny that that's the way my life played out, because I hate loss.
Right.
And I hate loss. I hate endings.
Yep.
I don't know if you're the same way, but I'll watch a movie and then or something, and I'll go, well, what happens to those people now?
Yeah.
We become a part of their lives for a bit, and then the movie's over with, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I don't know what happens to them beyond this. It's happily ever after or whatever. I read a book and I get so attached to the people in a book.
Yeah.
book is over with. So I don't like the end. I don't like endings.
Right.
And God again said, "Hold my communion wine, Coffee, because this is what I'm going to deal with."
It's funny, you're looking for a chip in the dog, but the chip was always there. It was you.
The chip, she came and found this chip.
That's
and
right.
Funny that, the dog that we had, another dog, her name was Skeeter, and Skeeter was our little half Jack Russell, half Chihuahua, and she was cousin Kenny's dog. She was Kenny's girl. She loved me, but every night when he went to bed, she was right up the steps with him. She ran up the steps when he would go to bed, and she was his bed buddy.
Right.
Abigail, again, you're gonna make me cry, Chris. Damn you, you're Oprah.
If I could give you a hug, I would, my friend.
But here's the deal. Let me tell you this. You talk about animals returning or having some level of influence or whatever over new animals. Skeeter never knew Abigail. But let me tell you what Abigail does. Skeeter would run up the steps and go to bed with Kenny. Aww. Abigail, every night when Kenny turns off his light here in the living room where I'm sitting right now, turns off the light, kicks off his bedroom slippers to go upstairs, she's upstairs just like Skeeter did.
Wow.
Never saw Skeeter do this, but she does the same thing, goes upstairs and hops in bed with Kenny like Skeeter did.
You got all these memories going through my head. It was funny a couple of days ago because I've got 3 cats, and the first one out of these 3 is Noir, and he's about 14, 15 years old. And I've always had this fear, obviously he's going to be the first one to go out of the 3. So I was like bawling, just saying, I love you, and always have that moment now rather than later when the time comes when they're sick or they've passed, is just kind of always giving that last minute, affection towards the animal, because you never know when you're going to have the last one. I mean, he's healthy, but it's just, I get this fear like, oh man, this is going to be tough, but we're eternal and it can continue to love, other animals. That's our expression as humans.
They bring so much joy, and their love is so unconditional. And it's, I'm 66 years old, and I've never been without a dog alive. Periodically I've had cats here and there, but I've never ever been without a dog. So it would be very unusual. And like I said, we're kind of excuse me, we're kind of in the process of looking around a little bit for maybe getting another dog. We'll see.
The universe will present itself. It's funny how some people get that attachment to animals and some people don't understand the relationship that you can have, the bond you can have with an animal. I'm very fortunate that my mom, as soon as I was born, we had a cat, and growing up, we had a cat, and they were strays. And so our whole life we've had cats, and then my sister has horses, dogs, cats. But, I spent the night at my mom's last night, as I do on Wednesdays, to go see her because,
How's your mom doing? Let me ask you that.
She's in a wheelchair. She carts around. She's very thin. She's lost a lot of weight because she just doesn't eat as much. Her husband, my stepdad, passed away in October from COVID.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
She's been just devastated. She didn't get to see him for months because he got put in a care center, and she couldn't see him, so she never really got to say goodbye. But I watch in the morning as she's sleeping, and there's the one cat, Pudge. She's had for like maybe 15, 18 years. That was a stray, sitting on her bed, and it's like he's not there, but yet she's got the cats. She's got the 2 cats that she feeds and are always there with her. And I remembered real quickly this story she told me growing up, which she always brings up once in a while, was when she was a little kid, she got a kitten. Her mom came home with a kitten, and she had the kitten for about a week, and she loved it. And every day after school, she'd race home. She couldn't wait to see the kitten. She loved the kitten. And one day the kitten was gone, and she's racing all over the house. Is it hiding in the net? And she asked her mom, says, where's the kitten? And she goes, oh, your dad got rid of it. She's like, why? She says, because it was making a mess in the house. She said she was so devastated. She hated her father her entire life because of that. And she just said she cried for just months. And she couldn't believe her mom allowed that. She says, that thing I loved more than anything, and it was taken away. So that expression, that child being able to express was taken away. And she says, when I get older, and one day if I have kids, I will never take away a pet from them. And I will make sure that they have a pet they can enjoy and they can love. And so I walked by her room seeing the cat there on the bed while my mom was sleeping. And even though that was a painful moment for her, I thank that moment because I have always had wonderful pets in my life because of my mom and because of her commitment. So it's beautiful, man.
You know what I just got? When it is your mom's time to make that journey?
I know it's soon.
Gonna find her cat.
I hope so. I hope it's there waiting for her when she crosses.
Isn't that a lovely thing to think about? That we're gonna. Somebody asked me once, do animals go to heaven or do they have a soul and go to the spirit world? And I'm like, oh yeah,
right.
And if they have a separate like animal heaven,
right?
I'm thinking I'm going to be spending most of my time there, rather than with some of the folks that I probably did make it to heaven. I don't know how they got there, but I'm going to be over there playing with the dogs and the cats and riding a horse and wrestling a bear or something.
It's just funny you say that because I remember growing up as a kid, I used to be fascinated by the Garden of Eden and wanting to be around all the animals in this tropical place, right?
Oh, sure.
And it always fascinated me. And obviously now what I know about the spirit world and having a few out-of-body experiences and seeing bits and pieces of heaven, I've learned, like the mustard seed, we can move that mountain or move that tree on the other side and paint our own heaven, our place in heaven. And mine is just this gigantic tree of life that is on the edge of this cliff looking over this beautiful river and ocean and mountainside that's all green and flowers, and all my animals are going to be there hanging out in the trees and everything when my time comes, and that's going to be our moment that we join together, along with wildlife like giraffes and rhinos and tigers and stuff. For me, that's my heaven, man.
Well, thank goodness when you're in spirit, you don't have a body to encumber you, because I'll teleport over and visit you there.
There you go.
But I'm going to be living in this gigantic old Victorian that is exactly the way I want it.
Wow.
I'm going to have 10 million animals hanging around, and all my friends can come over and visit, and we'll hang out together. But maybe that old Victorian's going to be haunted by live people. I don't know, but
like in the others?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's where I want to be. That may be the afterlife, the coffee afterlife, I'm thinking.
Oh, I could see it now. They're doing a seance and you're coming through.
Hello, bitches.
So, Chip, tell me, growing up as a kid, and you grew up in New York, and then you eventually moved to Atlanta. So what was it like? Was there anybody else in your family that had abilities? How did you know that you were getting these senses?
Interestingly enough, on both sides of my parents' families, there had been weird spiritual, supernatural, paranormal things happen. So my great-grandmother let me back up. My maternal great-grandmother was a Native American medicine woman.
Oh, wow.
My mother had some abilities. Some of my cousins have abilities on my mom's side of the family. My dad's side of the family had weird things happen. My grandmother Coffey, we called her Granny Coffey, good Southern woman. And this play on words, Granny Coffey read tea leaves. So coffee. So I've always found that kind of fascinating. But when I was little, they noticed that I would, as a toddler, I'd be playing with my toys and stop what I was doing and look at the phone. And within seconds, the phone would ring.
Wow.
And then after I became verbal, I would stop what I was doing, look at the phone and say a name like Aunt Helen. And the phone would ring, and on the other end of the phone would be Aunt Helen.
Wow.
So it was kind of like being early version of caller ID.
Yeah.
And I wound up, knowing things as I got a little older about people, places, and things. And then I was born in New York, but moved to the South, which is where both my parents were from. And then we moved back to the North, and I moved into a haunted house. Not anything malicious, but very actively haunted by the family that had lived there before us. And it just, I've always somehow had weird spiritual paranormal things happen. One of the things, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but years before I was born, my mom had a son who died shortly after childbirth, and she was told she couldn't have any more kids.
Oh, boy.
And then she got pregnant with me 12 years later, 11 plus years later. And there were some complications with me just not being born.
Yeah.
Like a 10-month baby, 10 and a half month baby. And what the doctors found out, my mom went to the doctor and said, look, get this baby out of me.
Right.
I'm popping at the seams. And as it turned out, over the mouth of my mom's womb, from her first very difficult delivery of my brother 12 years earlier, scar tissue had formed over the mouth of her womb, and I was trapped.
Oh, my God.
So they took my mom, rushed her in, and they were going to do a C-section to get me out of there. And my mom said that she remembers hearing the nurse, they're putting her under anesthesia, and the nurse sang, oh my God, we're losing her. Her blood pressure's plummeting. And my mom said on either side of the table, there were two angels, beings of light, to lift her soul out of her body. And she looked at them and said, please, please don't take me. I don't want to leave my baby. And they looked at each other, smiled down on her, and put her back in her body. And as she crashed back in, I popped out.
She pushed you right out.
And they didn't do a single cut.
Amazing.
The doctors had no explanation for it. But as soon as they plopped her soul back in her body, I was born. So my mom was in the middle of a near-death experience when I was born.
There's no greater love in heaven than a mother for her child.
Well,
it's amazing.
I always found that story kind of fascinating. And one of the things, remember how I said your mom would see her kitten again?
Yeah.
One of the things I was told when my mom was close to death was that because my mom was scared to die, was that those same two angels that were there at my birth would come and get her when she was making that journey.
Isn't it amazing how, the angel realm, people have heard my stories in the past. I won't go into it. The most recent, you're telling this story, it reminds me of, and my mom and I had this conversation last night during dinner, was back in March of last year, the universe had said to me, because there was my stepdad, and I walked up to him, they says, Chris, you need to tell him now, you may not get another chance. So I went up to him and said, hey, Ray, I just want to let you know I love you. Thank you so much for being my stepfather, for being there for my mom and everything, teaching me a lot of things and blah, blah, blah. And he's looking at me like, what are you doing? My mom's like, would you stop that? What are you doing? I said, Mom, get out of here. You don't understand what Spirit's telling me. Just get out. So I gave him a hug and I was getting all teared up. And I said, Ray, I just want you to know heaven's real. I've been there and this and that. And, and he's like, oh, that's great. That's cool. He's very religious, very spiritual and stuff. He's like, that's, thanks, Chris. That's great. Well, later that week, he had an accident. Something happened to him. He got taken to the hospital, and then his side of the family never brought him back. They got a power of attorney. Long story. They got a power of attorney over my mom that we didn't know, and they kept him in a care center, and then they put him into a retirement center, and then they put him into another place with like dementia and stuff like that, even though he's stable. So he had been there, and we've been fighting to get him back, and then my mom had this great fear of COVID, and then, which obviously was a premonition, and sure enough, he got COVID and he expired. But what's interesting, my point of the story is, like you talked about the two angels, is when I got the phone call that he had COVID, they expected him, he wasn't going to make it over 24 hours.
Right.
We got to do a little Skype where we got to see him, and he was hooked up. He was unconscious, and, we said what we needed to say. But I went up to my meditation room and I prayed, and I said, I know that, Ray, that you wanted to pass over a year and a half ago. You told me you were ready to leave this plane. Now's your chance. I had the opportunity to tell you I loved you in the physical way and give you a hug. Now I know why the universe told me to do that. So now I'm ready to let you go. I said, if you want to go, go. But I'm going to ask now, God, please have two angels standing beside him when he starts to leave his body from the hospital bed so he's not alone, and take him wherever he wants to go. And I said that prayer. I was sitting down eating a couple hours later, and I felt his presence, and I get the call 2 hours later that he died 2 hours before, which was that precise moment. So I said, okay, great. We fast forward to about a week and a half. The only college, obviously, wanted me to be there physically during this COVID thing. I flew out there, had mask on. We did a ghost hunt afterwards. Everybody had to keep their distance. I'm using a device. Spirits are talking, and then a spirit comes through and says his name, Ray. I said, is this Ray? And they says, hey, I'm sorry, about your accident, because now he knows about my car accident 10 years ago, what I've gone through. I said, thanks, Ray. Is there anything you want to say to me? Anything else to the students here? He says, thank you for the 2 angels.
Oh,
I have this on video. I started crying, Chip, because I completely forgot about that prayer. And
yeah.
Chip, I said, oh my God, the angels. And I'm shaking. I'm looking at the students. I'm wiping my eyes. I totally forgot. So the angels were there. He's like, Chris, they're still here.
I can't get rid of them. Tell them to go take care of somebody else. They're doing it.
Chip, for everybody listening, Chip shared his story of him coming into this world. I just shared my quick story with my stepdad. Is angels exist?
Yes.
Can you share with us any other experiences you've had with your angels or your guides and stuff over the years? Because, you're a psychic medium and you have various abilities. What is it with the spirit realm, with guides and angels?
Let me just tell you. I was just going to say, I got one more angel story if you want an angel story.
Yes.
You're going to make me cry again. And
hey.
You have to forgive me for that if I burst into tears. So again, we have to rewind. And my dad had passed away and I brought my mom to live with me and she was never in really good health. And so it's New Year's Eve when 1992 was turning into 1993. And I get a phone call at work. I was working in the travel industry that an ambulance had been called and they were taking my mom to the hospital. And they got her into the back of the ambulance I flew home. Her blood pressure was 40 over palp, which is basically dead. She was sitting up laughing and talking to the people from the EMTs, with the EMTs putting her in the back of the ambulance. We got her to the hospital, and her doctor, who was an amazing woman named Maggie Merman. Maggie was also the personal physician of Coretta Scott King here in Atlanta. And she was my mom's doctor. And Maggie pulled me aside and she goes, I don't think she's going to make it this time, Chip.
Wow.
And I said, just do what you can. And they took her into the cardiac intensive care unit at one of the hospitals here in Atlanta. And I was with her. Basically, the doctor had said, I don't think she's going to make it through the night. Hell of a way to start a new year.
Right.
And they took her in and were getting her settled in. And I looked up and this guy in scrubs was standing in the doorway. And Chris, honest to God, he was one of the most beautiful, almost impossible to real people I'd ever seen.
Right.
Dark hair, blue eyes, the color of a summer sky, just almost too beautiful to be perfect. And he comes in, he said, Miss Coffey? And my mom said, yes. And he goes, my name is Micah, M-I-C-A-H. Hello.
Right.
Got it figured out already?
Right, yeah.
My name is Micah, and I'm going to be your nurse tonight. And my mom said, okay. And he goes, how you doing? And my mom had not heard what the doctor said to me. She said, I'm not doing too well, Micah. I don't think I'm going to live beyond tonight. And he said, I think I'm going to die tonight. And he said, well, no, you're not. No one dies on my watch.
Oh my God.
No one dies on my watch. And I said, okay. And been around hospitals and things, and you know what an arterial line is. You got to put a line all the way, an IV all the way into your artery. And my mom had it before, and she frickin' hated it because it hurts like a mother.
Right.
So he said, I've got to do this to you, but I'm not going to hurt you, Miss Coffey. And she said, it is going to hurt because I've had it done before. And he said, I told you I'm not going to hurt you. So I sat on one side of my mom and said, don't even look. Here, let me hold your hand, squeeze my hand, whatever you need. And he's over there working away and he goes, okay, I'm done. And she goes, my mom in her inimitable way said, you're S-ing me. He goes, no, it's done. And she goes,
wow.
I honest to God didn't even feel it. He said, well, I told you I wasn't going to hurt you. And he said, I'm going to get you settled. He said, and then I want you to just rest for a little while. I'm going to be here all night with you. So, anything you need, I'm right here. So he pulled me off to the side and he goes, Chip, go home. And I said, Micah, I can't. Dr. Merman told me that my mom's going to die tonight.
Oh, my God.
And he said, Chip, your mom's not going to die tonight. He goes, I've got her. And he said, we'll call you if we need you, but go home. You're exhausted. Go home, Chip. And I don't know why, but I believed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home and the new year happened. And it's a brand new year. I wake up at 5 a.m. and call the hospital, like with the phone on my chest, the portable phone on my chest, expecting to get a call, them telling me that my mother had passed. And at 5, I woke up with a start and dialed the number at the hospital, got connected to the nurses station in the intensive care unit. And they said, yeah, she's doing all right. And she's, I said, please tell her, a female nurse answered the phone. I said, please tell her that I'm going to take a shower and I'll be on my way. So it might have been 6 o'clock when I called. I don't know. But anyway, by 7 o'clock, I was at the hospital. And I walked into the room. Mom's sitting on the bed. And I said, how are you? She goes, I'm starving to death. Food, they're bringing me juice and crackers and all this crap. She goes, I need food, get better. Have them bring me like bacon and eggs, and I want toast. And, and I'm like, who the hell is this woman who was at death for 5-7 hours ago? And, within, to give you some idea, she said, let me just tell you something. She said, I really believe that Micah, the nurse Micah, kept me alive last night. I said, well, why? She said, he took good care of me, but I believe that his energy kept me alive last night. I said, what do you mean? Now, at that point in time, I had not any knowledge about, you've heard of the whole thing about the silver cord attached to your finger?
Yes.
Being attached to the silver cord theory. My mom had never heard of this either, and I hadn't at that point in time, so I had to research it. She said, there was this thin silver cord attached to this finger, and she put up her ring finger, and it went out of me, and the other end of it was attached to Micah.
Yeah.
She said, and everywhere he was on this unit that night, I knew where he was.
Wow.
She said, and that cord infused me with a life force.
Yep. That's incredible.
And it gets better. So the next day, she was let out of the intensive care unit.
Oh, my God.
And put in a regular room. And 3 days later, while this woman was at death's door, not expected to live, she was being released from the hospital.
Holy cow.
So I went for Micah. He had vanished.
Oh, my God.
We don't know where he is. We've tried calling him now. I don't know if an angel can fake an RN, or if an angel can fake being a resume, can have a phone, can have an address. I don't know how Micah wound up there. He was a flesh and blood person.
Right.
And I don't know how this happened, but for them to tell me we can't get in touch with him, it's like we've tried. So right after my mom was let out of that unit, he was gone. So I can't swear to this, Chris.
Right.
But I think he was an angel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We never know. At times we may be entertaining an angel,
I don't know how that works. But in my soul, I believe that Micah was Michael the Archangel.
Yeah. That is such a beautiful story, Chip. I mean, that's beautiful. That gave you an experience you're always going to be remembered, but it gave your mother, more to life.
And she lived for 6 more years.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And that makes a part of who you are now.
It's another one of those things in my life that I go, I can't understand it. I can't explain it, but you know what? It happened.
Yeah, everybody listening, I've got tears all over my eyes, and I'm sure many of you do as well, because you could relate to someone you've lost or someone you're afraid to lose in this life. I mean, that's just, we do this for you, the angels say,
It's amazing. I, I pray every day. I am constantly asking for the love and support of my angels and my guides.
Right. And I think everything you do, I mean, even sharing that story is a huge inspiration for a lot of people. You inspire a lot of people. I mean, I know when I'm on social media and I see the comments of the stuff that you've done and the wonderful comments of people that have gone through stuff, and because of you, you've helped them. I mean, that's such a beautiful thing. And that's why we're here, man.
It is exactly why we're here, Chris. Yes, we're here to earn a living.
Right,
no doubt about it.
Right.
And that's just something that is personal for us.
Right.
I live indoors and eat. It's a habit I don't want to have to break.
Of course.
But then again, it's a win-win situation. If we can do what we love, we're going to be able to support ourselves doing it, and it's going to be of a benefit to somebody else. That's a perfect combination of all of the above.
Yeah, it's a struggle at times. It's tough with what we do, I've been through ups and downs, but spiritually, it's so rewarding. I mean, a friend of mine who's, he just bought this gorgeous mansion. He's been in the mortgage business for years, and he had offered me a job in 2012. I left the mortgage business 2010. And for a while, I was making really good 6-figure income. I was doing very well. The market changed. My stuff changed. So he offered me a job and says, you're going to make about $250,000 a year doing this. I said, you know what? My heart's just not in that. I mean, the money's great. It would be great. I love doing what I do with the paranormal, even though there's really no money in it. I enjoy doing this. And it's funny. He just said to me during New Year's, he was talking about his new house. He's like, Chris, you should have stayed in the mortgage business. You should have continued doing this. You would have made all this money. I said, while money helps the world go around and it helps you have a lot of options. And yes, I would love to be making money. I know spiritually the rewards and the fortune that I've made spiritually,
right,
for the work that I've done and the things that I've seen and the people that have come back to me and thanking me and how I've changed their life, or even how they've changed my life. For me, that is just so valuable. That's more valuable. And I'm grateful for that. And I see the same thing with you too, even though you don't always hear it, and I read some of the people how you've inspired them and stuff, and I want to tell you this because there's so much more. When our time comes, we'll realize all the different things. And I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back. I'm learning this from my father, because during his eulogy, I read letters from people going back to the 60s and 70s where my dad took that one brief moment and made a difference in their life. And I read these during his eulogy, saying that I never really knew who my father was, but now I do. My father was a hero to so many people. And that's every single person listening, every single person listening. We inspire. There's something we do to help people in some way.
Saw your dad through other eyes.
Yes.
And here's let me interrupt you here.
Oh, please. You're not interrupting. Go ahead.
Let's talk about you for a minute, Chris Fleming. Talk about you. We've known each other for a long. I remember one of the stories I tell often, and you'll remember this story, was, remember when I got to the Stanley Hotel for an event back in the Beyond Reality days, or one of the events? It could have been a Dave Schrader event. I don't know.
Probably was, yeah.
But I can tell you that I came and found you guys up in an area. I got there late at night, and remember I said that I'd met a little old man down in the basement of the building, and I described him to you, and you said, "Come here, let me show you this picture." And you took me over to the picture of Mr. Stanley with the bird, the woodpecker out on the.
Oh yeah.
Said, "Do you look like this?" And I'm like, "That's the guy." And you said, "Dude, he died like 80 years." And I'm like, "Holy crap." But I remember those days long ago. And one of the things that we know, a lot of people who do what we do, there's a number of those people. Right. But let me tell you what I've always felt about Chris Fleming. I've always felt about Chris Fleming that you the level of sincerity that you have is immense. The level of integrity that you have is immense, and that you have done a whole lot of work on yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And a whole lot of work is finding out just who Chris Fleming is.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm reading you right now, so forgive me if it's unbidden, but here's the deal. 2021 is going to bring you a whole lot of surprises. And by the time you reach September and October of 2021, you're going to be overwhelmed by something new and bright and good.
Thank
September,
you. I hope
September,
so.
it's going to be like, wait a minute, what is this? But September, October, there are months where you're going to be overwhelmed by what will happen in September, October, because it's going to take you in a different and lovely direction. But
thank you.
Had this level of admiration for you that I just kind of knew that although we might not see each other as often as we might like or whatever, but that we were going to remain friends, and that we were we were going to always have a good professional and personal relationship. And I want you to know that I value that. I value both very, very much. So thank you.
Now you're making me tear up, man. Thank you. I really.
You're good. You're good people. You're good people, Chris Fleming.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I've gone through some really tough times. And thank you.
Dad says, "Tell my boy I love him."
Thank you.
Your dad's name is Reggie?
Yeah.
And he just said, "You better never call me that," saying that to you. It's Dad.
Thank you, my friend. That means more than you can imagine. I think a lot of people listening know how much that means. We go through a lot of stuff,
Tell you one last thing. We talked about your mom.
Yeah.
He said, "I've got this."
I hope so.
I've got this.
It's been tough.
He knows.
She's been through a lot. We've been through a lot. We went through a lot with my dad, and and then we've gone through a lot now with my mom and my stepdad. So it's been.
Well, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Depending on when she makes that transition, I want you to know this, Chris Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here.
Thank you.
I'm right here. Close as a phone call away. And if I want you to know that you can lean on me. I've lost both my parents. So if there's a time when there's anything at all, I love you enough to say, I will, whatever, anything, Chris, anything.
Thank you. It means a lot. It's going to be tough. I know it. It's going to be tough.
It's going to suck bad. It's going to suck bad. But, that emotional part of us, that intellectual part of us knows they're in a better place. They're going to be all right. They've got loving beings around them. But it hurts like a mother.
Yeah.
But it was important that you know that it's not hollow words all the time, because people want to be able to do something. But even if it's whatever that happens to be, if it's just talking about things or whatever, when that time comes.
Thank you.
I'm raising my hand and letting you know that you've always been Chip Coffey.
Thank you, my friend. I really I appreciate that immensely, because I know, and I've already been telling my guys it's going to be tough. I mean, for my father, it was different. He showed himself that day and all these things that happened. And my mom, though, she was always there growing up. So you've got that father-son, relationship, or the mother-father, and then you've got the dynamics my mom and I had, obviously, with our experiences, the ESP, the paranormal. It's like my mom gets it. She understands. My dad didn't always get it. So it's like when you lose your mom, it's like, it's tough.
And no matter how old you are, when you lose your second parent, when your parents pass, you feel like an orphan.
Yeah. I got little inklings of that feeling.
You feel like an orphan, no doubt about it. And that's why I said to you, if there's anything, let me know. Let me know. I mean, and whatever that happens to be, I'll turn into no offense meant, this is not an ethnic slur, but I'll turn into a good Jewish mother. You're doing all right. My New York will kick in.
Oh my God, that's funny. Thank you so much. I appreciate it immensely.
Of course.
You're such a good man, Chip.
Well, check a mirror. So are you.
Oh, thank you. So, for all the listeners, what else do you got going on? You've got still the Kindred Spirits is on. And for those listening, if you haven't watched the show, please watch the show. It's on Discovery Plus. What's next, Chip?
Getting my second vaccination for COVID in a week.
Wow. How was that? You had it done like a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago. And, I finally got an appointment for my second dose next. Well, what is today? Today is still Thursday.
Today's Thursday, yeah.
I don't even know. I just looked at my cousin. I don't even know. Today's another day of the week.
Right.
So I get it on Tuesday. And, I'm still going to have to take a lot of precautions like we're being told to do.
Yep.
We're going to get through COVID. What happens beyond that? I don't know. I'm thinking about, this is kind of a revelation. I'm thinking about kind of semi-retiring.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of not traveling as much.
Right.
If a TV show comes back and I'm asked to go back on a TV show, I probably would do that, but I'm going to back off from doing as much traveling as I did for events.
Understood.
I've done a lot of Zoom events here, and then 10 people, everybody guaranteed a reading. So that's been kind of
cool,
fun to do, and it's been well received. So that could continue to happen. And of course, I do private readings.
How can people get a hold of you for your private readings?
It couldn't be simpler. It's chipcoffey.com. Make sure you spell coffee with an EY. I branded myself all over the place with just my name.
There you go.
Coffee.com. You can find me there. That's the best jumping off point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really don't have much more to say. You and I had a conversation last week. We talked about, we look back on our lives and we look back on what we're doing and what we want to do in the future, and it's, traveling gets exhausting at times.
It is.
And, I don't know. I guess maybe I'll just end it at this.
No, here it is. I'm open to whatever happens.
Right.
I'm asking. Right. One thing I'll leave you with is this. You know what an acronym is? Like LOL and STFU, that's an acronym. It stands for something else.
Right.
When I pray, my acronym is HASH, hash. You know what that stands for?
No.
That I ask for myself and those people I love to be happy, abundant, safe, and healthy.
Oh, that's great.
So that's my acronym, hash. Happy, abundant, safe, and healthy. That's what I pray for myself and for the people that I care about. So for you and your listeners today, I'm wishing hash on you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Chip, so much. For everybody listening, this is Chris Fleming and Chip Coffey. You've been listening to this month's edition of Spirit Talk.